Rain slashed against the windows of the small roadside diner, turning the glass into trembling sheets of silver. The neon sign outside flickered, a single word struggling against the night. Open. Inside, the world was warm, humming softly with the tired chatter of truck drivers and late-night travelers. The smell of coffee and buttered toast lingered like comfort in the air. Behind the counter stood Mia Torres, 26, wearing a faded apron and a smile she had to rehearse every morning. Her eyes carried the exhaustion of double shifts and quiet dreams she'd put on hold. Most nights were the same. Refill mugs, clear plates, listen to lonely stories she'd forget by dawn. But tonight would be different. Hi, my beautiful family. I have missed you all. Thank you so for sticking around with me. I truly appreciate your love and support. If you're already hooked in for today's story and ready to enjoy it, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. The bell above the door chimed weakly. Everyone turned. A man stepped inside, soaked to the bone. His suit, though clearly expensive, was wrinkled, dirt-stained, and clung to his frame. His shoes, once polished black leather, now squelched with mud. In his hand, he held a small leather briefcase, and for a long second he just stood there, shivering, silent, eyes distant. No one spoke. The regulars stared. The cook muttered something under his breath about rich folks getting lost. A couple near the window laughed softly, assuming he was drunk. But Mia noticed something else. His expression wasn't just tired. It was broken, like someone who had lost not just his way, but his reason for moving forward. She stepped closer. "Good evening, sir," she said, voice soft but clear. "Table for one." The man didn't answer. He just blinked, as if trying to understand her words. His accent slipped through when he finally spoke. "Suma Mason," he murmured, barely audible. "Watashi gomen nasai." The words were in Japanese. Mia's heart skipped. She hadn't spoken the language in years, not since her mother died. But she still remembered. Without thinking, she switched tongues. "Daijoubu desu ka?" she asked gently. "Are you all right?" The man froze. Slowly, he lifted his head, eyes widening in disbelief. For a brief moment, his pain cracked, and something human grateful flickered through. "Anata wa Nihongo ga hanasemasu ka?" he whispered. "You speak Japanese." Mia nodded. "A little. My mom taught me." She gestured toward an empty booth. "Please sit. You're freezing." As he moved, his briefcase slipped from his hand, hitting the floor with a dull thud. A photo slipped out, a young woman smiling beside him, cherry blossoms framing her face. Mia bent down, picked it up and handed it to him. His fingers trembled as he took it. "Your wife?" she asked softly. He didn't answer, just stared at the photo, his lips parting like he wanted to speak but couldn't. Then finally a whisper. "She's gone." Mia felt a tightness in her chest. Something inside her, compassion, curiosity, instinct, urged her to stay by his side. Outside, thunder rolled. Inside, the diner buzzed with low murmurs. A trucker nearby snorted. "Guy probably got dumped. Look at that suit. Rich men cry too, huh?" Mia turned sharply, her eyes flashing. "Hey," she said firmly. "Let him be." The trucker shrugged, but went silent. She returned her focus to the stranger, bringing him a cup of coffee. "Here. On the house." He hesitated, then bowed slightly before taking it. His hands shook as he lifted the cup to his lips. "What's your name?" Mia asked. He paused. "Hiroshi," he said. "Hiroshi Tanaka." Mia smiled. "I'm Mia. It's nice to meet you, Hiroshi-san." Her gentle use of the honorific seemed to strike something deep. His shoulders softened. "Mia-san," he said quietly. "You are kind." For a few moments, silence filled the space between them, comfortable, heavy with unspoken emotion. Then, he opened his briefcase. Inside were papers soaked with rain, bank letters, a crumpled photograph of a factory, and a passport. Mia caught a glimpse of the name again. Hiroshi Tanaka. Her eyes widened slightly. She'd heard that name before. A Japanese billionaire, rumored to have vanished after a corporate scandal 2 months ago. Some said he'd lost everything. Others said he'd run away to escape the shame. But here he was, in a roadside diner at midnight, clutching his coffee like it was the last warm thing left in the world. Mia said nothing. She just sat across from him, the weight of his silence pressing into her chest. Finally, Hiroshi looked up. "Do you believe," he asked slowly, "that kindness can save a man?" The question caught her off guard. "I think," she said after a pause, "kindness doesn't always save, but it reminds us we're still worth saving." Hiroshi stared at her, as if those words meant more than she could understand. Outside, the rain began to ease, but the quiet storm in his eyes was only beginning. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small silver pin, a company emblem, tarnished by rust and time. He set it on the table. "This," he whispered, "was everything I built, and everything I lost." Mia leaned closer. "What happened?" His eyes drifted to the window, where reflections of passing headlights streaked across the glass. "A mistake," he said softly, "and no one to forgive it." Mia wanted to ask more, but she saw his hands tremble again, gripping the coffee like it was the only thing tethering him to this moment. She said instead, "You're not alone anymore, Hiroshi-san." He looked at her, eyes glistening, not with arrogance but gratitude. For the first time in months, he felt seen. Morning came slowly, spilling pale light across the parking lot outside the diner. The rain had washed everything clean, leaving the asphalt glistening like glass. Inside, the smell of brewing coffee filled the air again, and the morning rush had yet to begin. Mia moved quietly behind the counter, wiping down surfaces, humming under her breath. She hadn't slept much. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Hiroshi Tanaka sitting at that booth, staring out the window with a gaze that looked both lost and waiting. He'd stayed until closing, barely speaking. When she'd finally told him she had to lock up, he'd stood, bowed, and thanked her in careful English. "You are very kind, Miss Mia." Then he'd walked into the night, leaving only a folded napkin under his coffee cup. This morning she found it again. She hadn't thrown it away. Written in neat, deliberate handwriting were the words, "When the heart forgets its worth, even gold turns to dust." Mia traced the ink with her thumb. There was something hauntingly poetic about it, something that made her wonder what kind of pain a man like Hiroshi carried. That afternoon, the diner filled with the usual rhythm of life. The cook, Charlie, grumbled about wages. The radio hummed old love songs, and regulars trickled in with stories of long drives and broken dreams. Mia served, smiled, nodded, but her mind drifted. Who was Hiroshi Tanaka, really? She'd read about him years ago in a business magazine left behind by a customer. "Japan's visionary industrialist," the headline had said. A photo of a younger Hiroshi, confident, sharp-suited, standing in front of Tanaka Heavy Industries, a global powerhouse. The article described him as a self-made billionaire who started from a small Tokyo workshop his father owned. He was the kind of man who rebuilt things. Machines, companies, even people's lives. So how did a man like that end up wandering, rain-soaked and hollow-eyed, through a forgotten American town? The bell above the door jingled again. Mia turned, half expecting another trucker or local farmer. But it was him. Hiroshi stepped in, clean-shaven this time, wearing the same suit but now carefully pressed. His briefcase was gone. In its place, he carried a small paper bag. "Mia-san," he greeted softly, bowing slightly. "Good morning." Mia smiled genuinely this time. "You came back." He nodded. "You offered warmth. I thought perhaps I could offer something in return." He opened the bag and pulled out a delicate lacquered box, wrapped in gold fabric. Inside was a small origami crane, perfectly folded from crisp paper, its wings painted with gentle brushstrokes of blue and silver. "For you," he said. "In my country it means hope." Mia's eyes softened. "It's beautiful. Thank you." Charlie peeked from the kitchen. "Your friend's back, huh? You opening an international branch now?" he teased. Mia shot him a look. "He's a guest, Charlie." Hiroshi smiled faintly, seemingly unbothered by the remark. I understand. It is strange, perhaps. A man like me here. She gestured to the stool across from her. Not strange at all. Everyone ends up somewhere unexpected. He sat. For a moment, they just watched the rain begin again, light and gentle this time. Then Mia asked softly, "You said last night that you made a mistake. What did you mean?" Hiroshi's fingers brushed the edge of his cup. His eyes reflected something deep, regret that reached years backward. "I built an empire," he said. "Steel, machines, ships. My father began it and I made it powerful. But I forgot what it was for. I thought wealth was protection." He paused, eyes dimming. "When the markets fell, I ordered layoffs. Thousands. My workers, men who had built everything with me, lost their homes. One man took his life. I met his wife after the funeral. She looked at me and said, 'You killed him with your numbers.'" Mia's throat tightened. "I tried to fix it," he continued. "I sold shares, donated, even begged forgiveness. But the media," he shook his head. "They called me a monster. My board forced me out. My family left. Everything I built gone." He fell silent. Mia didn't know what to say. The man sitting before her wasn't a tycoon. He was a ghost carrying the weight of thousands of lost souls. After a long moment, she whispered, "Maybe that's why you're here. Not to be forgiven, but to start again." He looked at her as if trying to believe it. Days passed. Hiroshi began coming to the diner regularly, always at dawn or after closing. Sometimes he brought small gifts, a bag of green tea, a hand-painted postcard, once even a small bonsai tree. He helped fix a broken light above the counter one morning, surprising Charlie with how skillfully he handled the wiring. "You really do know your machines," Charlie remarked. Hiroshi only smiled. "Machines are simple. People are not." Mia found herself drawn to his quiet wisdom. Beneath his humility, there was a deep stillness, like a river that had seen too many storms. He never asked for sympathy. He just was, present, kind, careful with every word. But one evening after closing, she noticed him standing outside, staring at the diner sign as if it were something sacred. "Hiroshi-san?" she asked, stepping out. He turned. "This place," he said softly, "reminds me of my father's workshop. Small, noisy, full of life. My mother served tea to the workers every day. She said, 'Hiroshi, never forget the hands that build your dreams.'" His voice cracked slightly. "I forgot, Mia-san. I forgot the hands." Mia placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then maybe this is where you remember them." For a long moment neither spoke. The night hummed with the faint buzz of neon and the smell of rain on pavement. Somewhere deep down something was changing, for both of them. It was a quiet Thursday morning when the storm returned. Not in the sky, but inside the diner. The day began like any other. Mia wiped the counter, humming softly to the old jukebox tune that always played too quietly. The regulars filtered in one by one. Truckers, travelers, locals who knew her by name. And right on time, Hiroshi Tanaka walked in wearing his usual gray suit and that polite, almost shy smile. "Good morning, Mia-san," he said warmly, bowing his head just enough to make her heart soften. "Morning, Hiroshi-san," she replied. "Coffee?" He smiled. As always. Black. Strong. He'd become part of the rhythm of her days now, a quiet constant amid the clatter of dishes and voices. Sometimes he'd help her carry boxes or fix something in the back. Sometimes he just sat, reading small Japanese newspapers he received by mail. The customers had gotten used to him. Some respected his calm demeanor. Others still whispered about the rich guy who lost it all. But that morning something shifted. A black SUV pulled into the parking lot. Out stepped a tall man in a tailored coat and a woman with a camera. They scanned the diner quickly before the man strode in, his shoes clicking sharply on the tiles. "Excuse me," he said, his accent crisp and Japanese. "I'm looking for Mr. Hiroshi Tanaka." The entire diner went quiet. Hiroshi froze, his hand halfway to his coffee cup. The blood drained from his face. Slowly, he turned. "Koji," he murmured, voice trembling. The man smiled, a sharp, polished smile that carried no warmth. "It's been a long time, sensei." Mia looked between them. The tension was thick, electric. "Who are you?" she asked carefully. Koji extended a business card, sliding it across the counter. "Koji Watanabe, Executive Director, Tanaka Industries." "I used to work under Mr. Tanaka," Koji said smoothly. Before he disappeared, he turned his gaze to Hiroshi. "We've been searching for you for months. The board needs to finalize liquidation. There are signatures required." Hiroshi's jaw tightened. "You came all this way for a signature?" Koji's smile widened. "Not exactly. The company's new investors wanted to ensure your cooperation. You see, not everyone is thrilled that the man responsible for last year's collapse is still alive and wandering freely." The camera woman lifted her lens slightly. "Mr. Tanaka," she said in English, "would you like to make a statement for our viewers in Tokyo? The people would love to hear your explanation. Why you ran, why you left your employees with nothing." "Enough." Mia's voice cut through the air, sharp and steady. Everyone turned to her. She stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly but her eyes fierce. "This isn't the place for whatever game you're playing. He's not some headline for you to chase." Koji studied her, amused. "And you are?" "I'm the one who makes his coffee," she said. "And I've seen more humanity in him in the last month than you probably have in your whole boardroom." The diner went still again. Koji's eyes narrowed slightly. "Interesting," he said softly. "You've made a friend, sensei." He turned back to Hiroshi. "But friendship won't save you from what you owe." Hiroshi stood slowly, straightening his coat. "Koji, tell me, what happened after I left?" Koji hesitated, then smiled coldly. "The company was divided. Sold in pieces. I took control of the new board. The Tanaka name remains, but without you. You should be grateful I came to offer closure." Hiroshi's shoulders sagged. His voice was low, almost breaking. "You were like a son to me." Koji's expression hardened. "And you were a fool. The world has no room for sentiment." He turned to leave, signaling to the woman. "Let's go. We have what we need." But as they walked out, the woman paused, snapping one last photo of Hiroshi standing by the counter. A fallen titan amid the smell of coffee and old vinyl. The flash stung. Then they were gone. The silence they left behind was deafening. Mia stepped closer, unsure what to say. "Hiroshi-san." He turned to her, his eyes haunted but calm. "Now you see, Mia-san. The past does not forgive." "That's not true," she whispered. "People can change." He shook his head. "Perhaps. But the world remembers only what we break." He picked up his briefcase, now battered and old, and turned toward the door. "Where are you going?" she asked quickly. "I must face what I left behind," he said. "Even if it is only to accept my ruin." Mia reached out instinctively, grabbing his hand. "You don't have to do it alone." For a long moment, he didn't move. Then he looked down at her hand holding his, steady, sincere, and something softened in his eyes. "Arigato," he whispered. "But this is not your burden." And then he left, the bell above the door chiming one last time. Mia stood frozen, heart pounding. She didn't know where he was going or what awaited him, but deep inside, she felt a certainty she couldn't explain. This wasn't just a man trying to sign papers. This was someone walking toward the last piece of his broken life, and maybe his final chance to redeem it. She looked at the origami crane he'd given her weeks ago, still resting by the register. Its paper wings caught the morning light. Mia exhaled, determination sparking in her chest. "No," she murmured. "You're not doing this alone." The diner felt emptier without him. The seat by the window where he usually read the newspaper stayed untouched. Mia tried to distract herself with refilling coffee pots, chatting with regulars, pretending not to look at the door every time the bell rang. But he didn't come. The news started spreading online. Charlie showed her a clip on his phone. Japanese reporters talking about Tanaka Heavy Industries, the corruption scandal, and footage of Hiroshi standing in their diner. The headline read, "Disgraced Tycoon Found in America, Living as Commoner After Collapse." Mia's stomach twisted. The world had found him again. She replayed the moment Koji walked in, the venom in his smile, the flash of that camera. The humiliation in Hiroshi's eyes. She couldn't shake it. That evening after closing, she sat at the counter staring at the origami crane. Its wings were fraying at the folds, edges softened by her fingers. "Maybe I should have stopped him," she whispered. "Maybe I should have gone after him that night." As if the thought summoned him, headlights swept across the diner's front window. A dark sedan slowed, then stopped. The door opened. Hiroshi stepped out. His posture was straight, but his expression looked heavy, exhausted. He pushed the door open gently, the bell jingling faintly. Mia froze for half a breath, then hurried toward him. "Hiroshi-san." He bowed slightly. "Mia-san. I did not wish to bring trouble, but I had nowhere else to go." "Trouble?" she asked. "You think you are trouble?" He gave a faint, broken smile. "The news. They follow. The world does not forgive a fallen king." He sat down, and she poured coffee without a word. For a long time neither spoke. The rain outside filled the silence with its rhythmic tapping. Finally, Hiroshi said, "Koji was not lying. The company is gone. My name is now a stain." Mia sat across from him. "So, names can be cleaned. People can start again." He looked up, pain etched deep into his face. "You do not understand, Mia-san. In Japan, shame is a wound that does not heal. I cannot return. Not as I am." Mia leaned forward. "Then don't return as who you were. Build something new. Here." He hesitated, as if the idea were too foreign to grasp. "Here? In this town? Why not?" she asked. "You built an empire from a workshop once. Why can't you start from a diner now?" He gave a small laugh, dry and hollow. "You make it sound easy." "It's not," she said softly. "But neither is running from who you are." For a moment, he studied her, and the air between them seemed to hum, like a bridge forming between two souls who had both lost something. Then he nodded slowly. Perhaps you are right." The following days felt different. Hiroshi began showing up before dawn, helping Charlie fix the broken fridge or recalibrate the old coffee machine. His engineer's hands came alive again, careful, precise. He never spoke of his past in detail, but Mia could see the old rhythm returning, the quiet focus of a man who once commanded entire factories. The way he organized the kitchen, balanced ledgers, improved efficiency. It was subtle, almost invisible, but the diner began to thrive. Regulars noticed. "That guy's got magic hands," one of the truckers said. "Coffee machines running smoother than ever." "Yeah," another replied. "Kinda crazy. Dude used to be a billionaire, now he's fixing toast machines." Mia smiled faintly when she heard them. She wanted to defend him, to tell them that he wasn't just fixing machines. He was rebuilding himself. But she kept quiet. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the horizon, Hiroshi brought out a small folder. "I have been planning," he said. Mia raised an eyebrow. "Planning what?" He opened the folder to reveal blueprints, schematics drawn in pencil. Simple, elegant. "This diner uses too much electricity," he explained. "Old equipment. I thought, perhaps we can create solar panels on the roof, small ones. I can design. You can save money. I know a supplier in Los Angeles who still owes me a favor." Mia blinked in surprise. "You're serious?" He nodded. "If you allow me." She laughed softly. "Hiroshi, you don't need my permission. You're part of this place now." He looked at her, then really looked. And in that moment something in his expression changed. A flicker of warmth. Gratitude. Maybe even something deeper. But before either could speak, headlights flashed outside again. 2 black SUVs pulled into the lot. Hiroshi's shoulders tensed immediately. "No," he whispered. Mia turned toward the window. The same woman with the camera stepped out, followed by two men in suits. One held a folder marked with Japanese lettering. Mia's stomach knotted. "Reporters again?" "No," Hiroshi said quietly. "Lawyers." The door burst open, and one of the men spoke sharply. "Hiroshi Tanaka, you are summoned to appear before the Osaka Financial Court. There are new charges: embezzlement, falsified accounts, and public deception." Mia's breath caught. "What? That can't be right." The man ignored her. "If you refuse to cooperate, extradition will be arranged. You cannot hide here." Hiroshi stood frozen, jaw clenched, hands trembling slightly. "It is a lie," he said softly. "Koji. He is doing this to erase me completely." The men placed the folder on the counter and left as quickly as they came. Mia grabbed the papers, flipping through the dense legal text. "They can't just. This doesn't even make sense." But Hiroshi only stared at the rain-streaked window. "Koji knows how to bury a man. I taught him." He turned slowly toward her. "If I fight this, he will destroy anyone near me, including you." Mia met his gaze, defiant. "Then let him try." Hiroshi's voice softened. "Mia-san, kindness can only carry so much weight before it breaks." She stepped closer, her hand brushing his sleeve. "Then let's make it stronger. You're not facing this alone." Outside, thunder rolled again. The diner lights flickered. And for the first time since he arrived in America, Hiroshi looked not defeated, but alive, angry, determined, ready. Whatever came next, neither of them could turn back. The storm that night was worse than any before. Wind howled across the diner's roof, rain slammed against the windows like desperate hands, and lightning stitched white veins across the sky. Mia sat in the corner booth, papers scattered around her. Copies of the court summons, translation notes, legal phrases she'd printed off the internet. Across from her, Hiroshi was silent, eyes fixed on the folder as if staring hard enough could make it vanish. "Koji fabricated half of this," she said, tapping one of the pages. "He's claiming you moved company money into private accounts. But look here, the dates don't match. These transfers happened after you resigned." Hiroshi didn't answer. His jaw tightened, a flicker of dread crossing his face. "What is it?" she asked. He looked up slowly. Koji could not have known those account numbers. Only one other person could. "Who?" Hiroshi hesitated. "My wife." The words hit the air like thunder. Mia froze. "Your wife." He nodded. "Ayumi. She handled the company's charitable foundation. When the scandal began, I trusted her with everything. She promised to protect what remained." He closed his eyes. "But she stopped answering my calls. I thought she left because of the disgrace. But now." He opened the folder again, pointing to a digital signature at the bottom of the forged documents. "Ayumi Tanaka." Mia's stomach dropped. She helped Koji. Or Koji helped her, he murmured. Maybe both. Lightning flashed, and for a moment the diner glowed stark white. In that split second, Mia saw the tremor in his hands. Not anger this time, but heartbreak. "I built everything for her," he whispered. "Every ship, every factory. Her name was engraved on the first engine we produced. And she sold it all." He stood abruptly, the chair scraping back. "I must go to Los Angeles." Mia blinked. "What? Why?" He turned toward the window. "Koji has an office there. So does she. The foundation moved its headquarters months ago. I have to face them." She rose quickly. "Then I'm coming with you." He shook his head. "No. This is not your fight." She stepped in front of him, eyes fierce. "You said people can't rebuild alone. You were right about that. So don't try now." For the first time, he didn't argue. He just looked at her, a long, wordless look that said more than gratitude ever could, and nodded. They drove through the night, headlights slicing through sheets of rain. The silence between them wasn't empty. It pulsed with tension, fear, and something unspoken that neither dared name. By dawn, Los Angeles rose ahead. gray skies over a forest of glass towers. They parked near a sleek high-rise with gold letters gleaming at the entrance. Tanaka Foundation International. Inside, the lobby shimmered with marble and cold air. A receptionist stared as Hiroshi approached, drenched coat and all. "I wish to speak with Mrs. Tanaka," he said evenly. Her fingers froze over the keyboard. Do you have an appointment?" Hiroshi smiled faintly. "I built this company. I think she will see me." Within minutes, security guards appeared, but before they could move him, an elevator pinged open and a woman's voice echoed. "Let him through." Ayumi Tanaka stepped out. She was elegant. Flawless hair, pearls around her neck, calm eyes that revealed nothing. She looked exactly like the photo Mia had seen weeks ago, except colder. "Hiroshi," she said softly, "you shouldn't have come." His voice trembled. "I came because I had to know. Is it true?" She hesitated only a heartbeat, then nodded. "Koji and I merged the assets. The company was collapsing. You left me no choice." "No choice?" His tone cracked. "You turned me into a criminal." Ayumi's gaze hardened. "You were already one, Hiroshi. You gambled with lives. I just salvaged what was left." Mia stepped forward. "He didn't gamble. He tried to save them. You and Koji framed him." Ayumi looked at her with cool curiosity. "And who are you?" "Another lost soul he's promised redemption to." The words hit like a slap, but Mia didn't flinch. "Someone who sees the man behind your headlines." For the first time, Ayumi's calm wavered. Hiroshi's hands clenched at his sides. "Why, Ayumi? Was it the money? The shame?" She looked away. It was survival. A beat passed. Then her voice softened. "You always said the world doesn't forgive weakness. You taught Koji that. We just learned your lesson." The silence stretched until it felt unbearable. Then Hiroshi said quietly, "Then you both can keep what you built. It will not save you." He turned and walked away, every step heavy but sure. Mia followed, heart pounding. Outside, the air felt sharp, electric. The city roared around them, indifferent. At the car, Hiroshi leaned against the door, breathing hard. "It is done," he said. "There is nothing left to fight for." Mia shook her head. "No. There's something. Proof. We can find it." He looked at her, weary. "You would still stand beside me after this?" "Yes," she said. "Because I think you've already paid for your mistakes. Now it's their turn." For the first time since she'd met him, Hiroshi smiled. Not polite, not guarded, but real. "Then we fight." Later that night, back at a small motel, Mia sat on the bed flipping through the documents she'd taken from the Foundation's lobby. Financial ledgers, shipment logs, digital copies she discreetly photographed while Ayumi argued with security. Her heart skipped when she found one entry marked, "Transfer Authorization. K. Watanabe/A. Tanaka, Private Holdings, Cayman Account." Evidence. She glanced up. Hiroshi was sitting by the window, staring at the city lights. The glow carved shadows across his face. Half sorrow, half fire. "We can prove it," she whispered. "Koji and Ayumi forged everything." He turned slowly. "Mia-san, why would you risk so much for me?" She hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Because when you walked into that diner, you reminded me that kindness still matters. Now it's my turn to remind you that justice does too." For a long moment, they held each other's gaze. The storm outside began to fade, replaced by the steady rhythm of city rain. And somewhere deep inside that silence, something new was born. Not just purpose, but connection. The battle for truth had begun. The rain hadn't stopped in 2 days. It poured relentlessly against the motel window, tracing blurred rivers down the glass. Mia sat on the edge of the bed, phone pressed to her ear, listening to endless old music. The words "Your call is important to us" played over and over, but no one answered. She ended the call, frustration boiling beneath her calm exterior. "Every law firm I've contacted wants nothing to do with it," she said quietly. "They hear your name, they hang up. Koji's got connections everywhere. Hiroshi stood by the window, shoulders squared, hands clasped behind his back. His reflection looked ghostly in the dim light. He always did, he said. He learned too well. Mia wanted to shout, to demand he fight harder, but she saw it, the emptiness behind his eyes. He wasn't just losing a case. He was losing faith in the very idea that truth still mattered. What if we release the documents to the media ourselves? She asked. Make them public. He shook his head. Koji owns the narrative. He will twist it. Say I forged them. Say you helped me. So what? Let him. Mia-san. His voice cracked slightly, almost pleading. You do not understand the machine he commands. Power is not only wealth. It is control over what people believe. I know because once I held it too. He turned away from the window. And I abused it. The words fell like stones between them. Mia rose, her voice trembling. You made mistakes. You're human. But this isn't about your past anymore. This is about now. He looked at her, silent. Then finally he whispered, The man I was deserves everything Koji has done to me. Mia stepped closer. And the man you are doesn't. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hurts more than tears. You remind me of my daughter, he said softly. Before she stopped speaking to me. Mia's breath caught. You have a daughter? He nodded. Hana. She is 20 now. She studies art in Kyoto. Ayumi kept her away after the scandal. I have not seen her since the night I left Japan. He lowered his head. When I close my eyes, I still see her standing at the gate, calling for me. But I could not face her with the shame I carried. Silence filled the room. Outside, thunder rumbled like a low groan. Mia swallowed hard. Then maybe. This fight isn't about clearing your name. Maybe it's about being the kind of man Hana deserves to know again. For a long moment, Hiroshi didn't speak. Then he sank slowly into the chair, the weight of everything finally pressing him down. I don't know how to be that man anymore, he said quietly. Every step forward feels like walking through mud. Every breath tastes like guilt. Mia moved closer, kneeling beside him. Then let me carry some of it with you. He looked down at her, eyes glistening. Why do you care so much? Because someone once cared enough to save me when I didn't deserve it either, she whispered. She didn't tell him about her mother, how she died when Mia was 16, leaving her alone with a father who drank away their savings. How she'd dropped out of school, working double shifts to survive. How she'd learned Japanese only because her mother said, kindness sounds beautiful in every language. But in that moment, she didn't need to say it. Hiroshi understood. He reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and touched her shoulder. You are stronger than you think, Mia-san. She smiled faintly. So are you. That night, Hiroshi left. Mia woke to the sound of the door closing softly. The bed beside her was cold. His briefcase was gone. Panic surged through her. She ran to the window and saw his figure disappear into the rain, heading toward the distant bus station. Hiroshi, she shouted, but the wind swallowed her voice. She grabbed her coat and the folder of documents, heart racing, and sprinted out into the storm. The streets were nearly empty, just flickering streetlights and the hum of rain against concrete. She reached the station, breathless, scanning the platform. There he was, standing alone beneath a dim light, ticket in hand. She rushed forward, water soaking through her shoes. You can't just leave. He turned slowly. His face was calm, too calm. I must face Japan. I cannot hide here forever. You'll be walking straight into their trap. Then so be it. Her voice broke. You think throwing yourself to them will make anything right? It won't bring back your workers. It won't bring back Hana. It won't. It will bring peace, he interrupted softly. At least for them. Maybe that is the only redemption left. Mia shook her head, tears mingling with rain. That's not redemption. That's surrender. He smiled sadly. Perhaps. But it is the only thing I know how to give. She stepped forward, gripping his arm. "Don't do this. Please. You're not alone anymore." For a moment, he looked at her with such tenderness it made her breath catch. Then he gently removed her hand. "Goodbye, Mia-san," he whispered. "Thank you for seeing the man I once hoped to be." The train's horn echoed through the storm. He stepped aboard. The doors slid shut. Mia stood there, soaked, trembling, watching the train disappear into the darkness. When it was gone, she felt the silence hit her like a wave. She was alone again. Utterly, painfully alone. She looked down at the folder clutched in her arms, rain blurring the ink. The proof they'd found. The last piece of truth left. Her tears fell freely now, mixing with the rain until she couldn't tell one from the other. For a long while she just stood there. And then, slowly, she whispered, "If he won't fight for himself, I will." The clouds thinned into pale ribbons, and sunlight touched the soaked streets like a fragile promise. The world looked washed clean, though inside Mia's chest everything still felt wrecked. She sat in the diner again, her diner, though it no longer felt like hers. The morning rush buzzed around her. Coffee being poured, Charlie flipping eggs, a few regulars trading jokes. Life went on. But to Mia, the air felt heavier somehow, as if something sacred had been taken from it. On the counter lay the folder. The papers inside were still damp around the edges, but the evidence was there, clear, undeniable. The bank logs, the signatures, the money trail that led straight to Koji and Ayumi. Proof of betrayal. Proof of Hiroshi's innocence. She traced the ink with her thumb, remembering his voice. "You remind me of my daughter." Her throat tightened. She could almost hear the rhythm of the train carrying him away, every sound a heartbeat lost to the distance. Then she looked up and caught her reflection in the diner's front window. Hair messy, eyes tired, but something in her gaze had changed. It was sharper now. Fiercer. No more waiting for someone else to make things right. She wiped her hands on her apron and grabbed her phone. "Charlie," she called, heading for the door. "Where you going?" he asked, spatula in hand. "To make some noise," she said. 2 hours later, Mia stood outside the Los Angeles Bureau of Global Media. A tall building shimmering in the sun. She'd never been inside a place like this before. The security guards eyed her curiously, a waitress in a faded uniform clutching a folder like it contained the fate of nations. "I need to see someone from investigative reporting," she told the receptionist firmly. "Do you have an appointment?" "No. But I have a story that could expose one of Japan's biggest corporate cover-ups." That got attention. Within minutes, she was sitting across from a woman named Elena Rodriguez, a sharp-eyed journalist with a voice recorder and a reputation for tearing down the powerful. "All right," Elena said. "Convince me." Mia took a deep breath and opened the folder. She laid everything out, the forged transfers, the false signatures, the link to Koji and Ayumi's offshore accounts. As she spoke, Elena's eyebrows climbed higher. "You're telling me the so-called whistleblower who claimed Tanaka embezzled millions was actually stealing it himself?" "Yes," Mia said. "And I have the documents to prove it." Elena leaned back, tapping her pen against her lip. "You know what you're risking, right? These people have lawyers who eat lawsuits for breakfast." Mia met her gaze, unwavering. "I don't care. The truth deserves to breathe again." The journalist studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "You're either very brave or very foolish." "Maybe both," Mia said. By nightfall, the story was live. Exposed. The Tanaka Industries fraud. Insider evidence reveals true mastermind. Mia watched it unfold on the diner's small TV. Her hands trembled as footage of Koji and Ayumi played. Public statements, interviews, the whole facade unraveling. Then the article's images flashed. The scanned documents, the forged accounts, the trail of proof. And there, in the final paragraph, was her name. Source: Mia Torres, waitress from Riverside Diner, who assisted former CEO Hiroshi Tanaka in revealing the truth. Charlie whistled low. "Well, I'll be damned." Mia exhaled shakily. "Now let's see if it's enough." It was. Within 24 hours, the story spread across continents. Headlines in Tokyo, New York, and London all echoed the same message. Tanaka vindicated. Koji and Ayumi vanished from public view. Japanese authorities announced an investigation into corporate fraud. But the person who didn't appear, who no one could find, was Hiroshi. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, a train rumbled through the outskirts of Kyoto. Inside one of its carriages sat Hiroshi Tanaka, face lined with exhaustion, eyes lost in the mountains beyond the glass. He had returned home to face the truth, not knowing that the truth was already fighting for him. When the train stopped at a small town station, he stepped out and began to walk. The streets were quiet, framed by cherry trees shedding late blossoms. He turned down a narrow road and stopped before a modest house with a red gate. He hesitated, then pressed the intercom. A young woman's voice answered in Japanese. "Yes." "Hana," he said softly. "It's me." There was silence. Then the sound of footsteps. The door slid open. A young woman stood there, long dark hair, paint-stained hands, eyes wide with disbelief. "Father," she whispered. Hiroshi's throat tightened. "I do not ask forgiveness," he said quietly. "Only that you see the man who remains." Tears filled her eyes as she stepped forward, trembling. "They said you were gone. That you took everything with you." "I lost everything," he murmured, "except the wish to see you once more." She reached for him then, and he caught her hands in his. For a long time neither spoke. The air smelled of rain and spring. When she finally pulled back, she handed him her phone. "You should see this," she said, smiling through tears. On the screen was the article. His name. His truth. Mia's photo, standing in the diner, smiling softly beneath the headline. Hiroshi stared, unblinking. "She did it," Hana said. "She cleared your name." The dam broke. Hiroshi covered his face with both hands, shoulders shaking. For the first time in years, the tears that came were not from guilt, but from grace. That night, beneath the cherry trees, Hiroshi whispered to the wind, "Arigato, Mia-san." And for the first time he believed that maybe, just maybe, he still had something worth returning to. Tokyo's news networks blazed with the Tanaka scandal, reporters crowding the gates of every corporate building tied to the foundation. Bank accounts were frozen. Koji Watanabe was detained at Narita Airport while attempting to flee to Singapore. Ayumi Tanaka, once the darling of corporate philanthropy, had vanished. But for Mia, half a world away, the victory felt incomplete. She sat at the diner's counter, coffee untouched, eyes glued to the news ticker scrolling across the bottom of the TV screen. The words "Tanaka cleared of fraud allegations," "former CEO's whereabouts unknown," pulsed in red. She whispered, "Where are you, Hiroshi?" The bell above the diner door chimed. She looked up and froze. There he was. Raincoat. Briefcase. The same gentle stoop of his shoulders. But this time there was light in his eyes, a quiet, steady flame. For a heartbeat, she couldn't move. Then she whispered, "You came back." He gave a small bow. "You gave me no choice." Later that night, they sat together in the same booth where it all began. The storm outside had calmed, replaced by a soft drizzle that painted silver streaks across the windows. "I saw the article," he said, voice low but sure. "You risked everything." "I just did what was right." He smiled faintly. "You did more than that. You gave me back my name, my daughter, my life." She met his eyes. "You gave me something too, you know." He tilted his head. "Hope," she said simply. "You reminded me that being small doesn't mean being powerless." He looked down, humbled. "Then perhaps we both have something left to rebuild." 3 days later, Hiroshi stood before a wall of flashing cameras in Tokyo. The press conference was being streamed globally, millions watching as the disgraced billionaire, now vindicated, prepared to speak for the first time in years. Mia watched from backstage, nerves coiled tight. She'd flown to Japan with him, unable to let the story end in silence. Hiroshi stepped up to the podium, adjusting the microphone. His voice, when it came, was calm and resonant. "Years ago," he began, "I believed success was measured by how high I could climb. I built towers of steel and glass, but I forgot the foundation beneath them, people." He paused. The room was silent. "When the scandal came, I thought I was being punished. I lost faith in the world and in myself. But sometimes," his gaze lifted toward the cameras, "a stranger reminds you of the humanity you forgot." He smiled slightly. "To that person, Mia Torres, thank you. You reminded me that kindness has no currency, yet it is the wealth that saves us all." Applause rippled through the room. Mia blinked hard, holding back tears. But the peace didn't last long. As the crowd began to disperse, one of Hiroshi's assistants hurried in, phone in hand. "Sir, there's something you need to see." The screen showed a breaking news alert. Former Foundation head Ayumi Tanaka found, attempted suicide at coastal residence. Mia gasped. Hiroshi froze. Without hesitation, he whispered, "Where?" Within hours, they were in a black sedan racing through the misty countryside. The air smelled of salt and rain. When they arrived, police cars lined the cliffs overlooking the sea. Paramedics moved quickly, carrying a stretcher toward an ambulance. Ayumi was alive, but barely. Hiroshi pushed past the guards, heart hammering. "Ayumi," he called. She turned her head weakly. Her face was pale, her hair tangled by wind, but her eyes, those calm, calculating eyes, were different now. "Hiroshi," she whispered. He knelt beside her, voice breaking. "Why?" Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I thought, if I took everything from you, maybe the pain would make me forget my own." He shook his head, devastated. "There was nothing to forgive." She smiled faintly. "And still you forgave me." Her breathing grew shallow. "Tell Hannah. I'm sorry." The paramedics lifted her onto the stretcher. As they carried her away, Hiroshi stood rooted to the spot, the wind whipping around him. Mia touched his arm gently. "You did what she couldn't do, Hiroshi. You faced your guilt. That's what redemption looks like." He looked at her, eyes glistening. "Redemption," he repeated softly. "Yes. But it feels heavier than I imagined." She smiled faintly. "That's because it's real." That night, they walked together along the coast. The moon hung low over the water, a silver mirror stretching endlessly into the dark. "I once thought money could buy peace," Hiroshi said. "Then I thought justice could. But neither was true." "Then what can?" Mia asked. He looked at her. "Connection." They stood in silence for a while, the waves whispering below. Finally, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small wooden charm. It was carved with Japanese characters. "Kizuna. Bond. I had this made when my daughter was born," he said. "It means the ties that connect us. I want you to have it." Mia's breath caught. "I can't." "You can," he said gently. "Because you reminded me that even when the world turns its back, there is always someone willing to say, 'I see you.'" She took the charm, tears glistening. "Then I'll keep it safe. For both of us." He smiled. "Then we begin again." 1 year later. The diner's morning light looked different now. Softer, warmer, as if time itself had exhaled. Outside, the California sun spilled across the highway, and through the window, Mia could see the same booth where it had all begun. The coffee pot hissed, the bell above the door chimed, and Charlie hummed along to the radio. Life had returned to its rhythm, but not the same rhythm. On the wall near the entrance hung a framed newspaper clipping, "Hiroshi Tanaka, from Scandal to Second Chance." Below the headline was a picture of him and Hannah, standing before a new factory in Kyoto. The article talked about his latest venture, Tanaka Renewal, a non-profit organization dedicated to rebuilding small businesses and teaching ethics in corporate governance. Mia smiled every time she saw it. And then, that morning, the bell rang again. She turned and froze. Hiroshi stood in the doorway, dressed simply in a dark suit, a faint smile touching his lips. "Welcome back," she said, heart fluttering. He bowed. "It seems I am developing a habit of showing up here unannounced." She laughed softly. "You could call ahead, you know." "And ruin the surprise?" He approached the counter, placing a small envelope in front of her. A letter, he said. From Hana. She wanted me to deliver it personally. Mia wiped her hands and opened it. The handwriting was neat, careful. Dear Mia, my father tells me you were the one who saw him when the rest of the world turned away. Thank you for giving me back the man I remembered from childhood. The one who taught me that kindness is the only true wealth. If you ever come to Japan, please visit us. We have a seat waiting for you under the cherry trees. With gratitude, Hana Tanaka. Mia blinked away tears. She writes beautifully. She gets that from her mother, Hiroshi said quietly. There was no bitterness in his voice this time, only peace. He looked around the diner, taking in the laughter, the smell of pancakes, the clatter of dishes. This place. It has more life than any boardroom I ever sat in. That's because here people come to be seen, Mia said. He nodded slowly. Yes. And to be forgiven. Later, as the afternoon sun poured gold through the windows, they sat together at their booth, the same one where she'd once poured him coffee, where his silence had held a lifetime of shame. I've been traveling, he said, visiting the families of the men who died in that accident. I wanted to look them in the eyes to tell them the truth myself. Mia's eyes softened. What did they say? Some forgave me. Some didn't. He smiled faintly. But all of them listened. And that is more than I deserved. She reached across the table, resting her hand on his. You've come a long way, Hiroshi. He chuckled lightly. And you, Mia-san, have taught me something no empire ever could. What's that? That strength does not roar. It whispers. And sometimes it wears an apron. She laughed, a tear slipping down her cheek. You should put that on a sign. Perhaps I will. That evening, as the diner emptied, Hiroshi stood by the window watching the horizon fade into shades of amber and rose. He turned to her. I will return to Japan tomorrow. The foundation is rebuilding, and Hana wishes me to speak at her art exhibition. Mia smiled. She must be proud of you. He hesitated, then asked softly, And you? Her heart caught in her throat. More than you know. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded slip of paper. A plane ticket. He set it on the counter. Tokyo, she read. One way. He nodded. For when you're ready to see the cherry blossoms. She stared at it, then at him. Are you sure? He smiled. You once fought for me when I had nothing. Let me return the favor. You've given me a second chance. Perhaps Japan can give you yours. For a moment, silence stretched between them, filled with everything unspoken, everything understood. Then she whispered, Maybe I'll come sooner than you think. 2 months later. Spring in Kyoto was a miracle of color. Petals drifting like snow, rivers lined with pink. Under one of those trees stood Mia, suitcase by her side, watching as Hiroshi and Hana greeted guests at the entrance of a gallery. The banner above read, The Art of Renewal. When he turned and saw her, his smile broke wide and genuine. He crossed the courtyard, bowing low. You came. You invited me, she said, laughing softly. I was not sure you would. I wasn't sure either. But, she looked around at the blossoms. Some things are worth crossing oceans for. He held out his hand, hesitating just a moment before she took it. Together they walked beneath the falling petals, two souls who had once been strangers. One fallen, one forgotten, now bound by something far stronger than fate, kindness. As they passed beneath the archway, Hiroshi whispered, You know, Mia-san, when you first greeted me in Japanese, I thought it was just a word. She smiled. What word? Ohayou gozaimasu. He looked at her warmly. Good morning. Mia laughed softly. It still is, Hiroshi. For both of us. The camera would fade out there. Two figures beneath a canopy of cherry blossoms, walking toward the light of a new day. Would you have greeted the lonely stranger in his own language that day? How many lives could change from one simple act of kindness? Share your thoughts in the comments, and remember, sometimes, good morning is all it takes to change a life. The end.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed the story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.